Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Football Experience, brought to you by On the Pod. I was gonna hand the reins over to Caleb straight away, but he told me bring us to a happy place first. So
I didn't say you often, which is very nice of you.
yeah. So look, let's touch on. We'll go straight into Chelsea Zagreb, and then we'll go into Thomas Tuchel's sacking. As I think, did I mention it last pod where I said that I think I mentioned it where I was trying to get tickets and basically their whole ticketing system collapsed. So um, I was meant to be at that game on TV. It looked like an amazing atmosphere.
Yeah, pity. Like you said, not all four stands were full, eh?
Yeah. But you know how if we're gonna go down like a philosophical route. And I was talking to one of my friends last night about it. He's more of a realist, so he doesn't believe in that shit. But I was basically saying like, you know how like if you make certain decisions, then like maybe there's gonna be a different outcome in the universe. Like had I gone to that game, we probably would have got beat like 3-0. So I
Exactly.
in my reality, I probably would have
You
seen it.
helped.
Yeah, I probably would have seen a
Yeah.
different result. So maybe it was a good thing that we
Are
that
they sharing some of the win percentage with you?
they should.
Send it your
They
way. They
should.
should.
I'll send them. I'll send them like an email saying, look, you gotta give me some of that dosh. Um, but like onto the game though. I think first half though, I actually thought Dinamo looked very good. I actually thought that they looked better than Chelsea. Like Chelsea looked, they had a couple of chances where they like, especially in the opening like 10 maybe 15 minutes where they and like Gilte's chances, I think where they put it across the edge of the 6 yard box, and no one was on the end of it. So they had a couple of chances, and there's a couple of really good chances to put the game to bed early. But it's sort of typical of those games where when you don't take your chances early, you end up getting punished, like at some point in the game, and then once Dinamo got their goal, then that just allowed them to control it, have a little bit more control of the game, because Chelsea then obviously had to, I wouldn't say rush, but they had to adjust their game plan. I must say though, Fafana and Koulibaly look like they struggled with Petkovic, like with a big man up front that plays with his back to goal. There was points in that game where he was making them look like amateurs, in my opinion. It just made me think how they're going to cope with Haaland when they go up against him. However, I don't think Haaland necessarily plays with that same similar style. He doesn't necessarily play with his back on the defender all the time. But regardless, I think it was bad result for Chelsea. Apparently, though, like onto the Tuchel sacking, apparently that wasn't the reason Tuchel got sacked. They were already planning to sack him before that game, which is I found that a little bit interesting. But then obviously that game was probably the final nail in the coffin. Um, but yeah, good result for Dinamo. Bad result for Chelsea. And have we sort of given praise to Graham Potter, because it looks, I'm not sure if it's confirmed that he's going to be the next boss, but
Confirmed.
it's confirmed. Okay, because I think yesterday
Yeah.
when I last looked, like he was like still in talks. But one man's misery is another man's I don't know what the saying is. Glory,
I
glory.
don't
I
know how
don't
to
know.
finish that.
I don't know. But yeah, I'll hand it over to you, and you can have your thoughts.
Well, admittedly, I didn't watch the whole game. I watched the mini match, and then I was surprised to find out the result after watching the mini match, as you would be. But it's kind of indicative of Chelsea. You said it that it felt like a game where if you don't make your chances, tell the other team could come into it and punish you. But Chelsea aren't that team. They don't have that personnel for me. They don't have. Aubameyang looked average from what I saw in the clips. Um, is he going to be the answer? I don't know. Probably not. Probably not for what Chelsea want to do. He's a good option, especially for the amount they paid for him. But they just don't have a striker in that team, and everything they've tried in terms of a striker has failed. So when you're asking for goals, where are they coming from? Sometimes they can dominate games, and I kind of expect with Potter coming in that we might see a better version of his Brighton teams, because those Brighton teams were never known for scoring goals, and they suffered pretty much the same problems. They could dominate games. Not saying that Chelsea dominated this game, of course, but they dominated games, but they didn't score the goals. And this is what I see in this Chelsea team when they're at their best. And recently, they haven't even been at their best because, as you say, Koulibaly hasn't been the player I expected to see. Whether that's his fault or, I'd say he should be experienced enough that even if he is coming into a rocky situation, he could help be one of the forces that steady it. But he doesn't, at the moment, look to be that guy. Like, I'm not writing him off after a couple of weeks, far from it, but he hasn't shown it yet. And Fofana, I think, is a gross overpay. And really disappointed for the Dinamo goal how damn slow he looked. And he's meant to be the legs in the back three. But he was just from the halfway line. You expect him against a player who has to dribble the ball to at least get back in and get closer than he did. But he let him get all the way to the keeper and then a lovely little finish. But yeah, I don't know if he's going to be the answer. And I look at, and obviously it's not the new owner's fault for this, but I look at a player like Tomori playing at AC Milan. I think he would slot into a back three absolutely perfectly. So that not only do I think they got an inferior player, but they paid a shitload more than they probably should have for him. So a lot of this for me reeks of two things. It reeks of the effect of last season, the second half of last season on Chelsea and on Tuchel in particular. I think things sort of soured a little bit in that, and he had to cop a lot of the brunt of taking the club forward through the whole Abramovich selling the club and the transition and everything. And then a lot of it reeks of a new owner coming in and wanting to make his stamp on the team and the club straight away. And I'm never a fan of that kind of approach. I like owners who come in and really assess everything. They don't come in with this arrogance that they know exactly what they're doing from the very start. They sort of come in, they let it settle down, they have a look at what they got everywhere, and sort of assess and then make decisions once they've been involved in the game for a little bit longer. So I don't like what I'm seeing in terms of that, but that might just be growing pains, and maybe they have the funds to bankroll good signings. They get the right people in, and they go forward from here. But it's interesting. In a long time we haven't seen Chelsea not under Abramovich, and I think he was well. You only have to look at. It's not a coincidence that he comes in when he does, and since then they've won what 5 league titles, 2 Champions League titles. I don't think that's a coincidence there. So things are not settled at Chelsea. But having said that, on the flip side of it, I'm delighted for Graham Potter, and I'm really interested to see what he does with the team from here, because I think he's got a lot of pieces that he can use effectively. And if I've got to say one thing about Graham Potter, I think he's a manager who puts players in their best roles to succeed, and he understands players' qualities, and he understands how to build a system around those qualities where players are in their best positions and are in their best roles to succeed. So um, it's just how he handles the big club pressure. But from what I've seen of his demeanour, I'm not too worried about that at the moment. I'm just more worried about the way Chelsea look. But you've got to think that this is a long term plan, getting a young manager in like that. So I'm very interested to see what he can do with this Chelsea team. Even though I don't think the whole process to get where we got has been a good one from a Chelsea aspect.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one, especially because like they signed like half a new team this summer, and they're all Tuchel signings. So
I never got that sense. And there was one thing that he was saying when Fofana first came into the team, and he was like, I guess he was trying to spin it positively. I don't even know if he was, because Tuchel, I think, is really calculated with this shit. So I don't even know if he was trying to spin it positively. But he's like, Fofana's, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but he said Fofana's coming in there and we hope to use his like youth and his sort of wildness to really help the back three. And I'm just like, is wild really the adjective you want to use on one of your centre backs when you're bringing them in? And I think Tuchel's really calculated with that. And I might be reading too far in between the lines, but that just gave me the sense he didn't fancy Fofana. I don't know. I don't know if that was his signing, but obviously there's some reports that say it's going to be hard to decide what to believe, because I don't think the owners and Tuchel were on good terms, and I think they had differing opinions, and I think there's got to be stories that come out of this. I think there already has been, in fact.
Yeah, I heard some story that apparently the owner, I think it's Todd Bowley, he wanted to sign Ronaldo, but Tuchel pretty much stopped that transfer. He's like, because for obvious reasons we've seen why unfortunately Ronaldo doesn't work in the system that these modern teams are trying to play, where it's a high pressing that system where the front three or the front two have to press, and everything's high paced, and that's probably down to his age rather than his personality, I'd say, because he's never been the player that would press and play in that sort of style. So Tuchel saw that he wouldn't fit into his plans in that sense. So he's the one that. So even around that, apparently there was a little bit of tension, because you have an owner that wants to sign a player, but the manager doesn't want him. But I will also mention that apparently I don't know her last name, but I know that her it's her Marina or something. She was the head of she was the head of signings or something at Chelsea under Abramovich. So she got fired, and also Peter Cech got fired. I think Peter Cech was her second or something. So apparently the backroom staff, that isn't Tuchel's staff, but backroom staff that's sort of in charge of scouting and signing players, they've been replaced or removed. So yeah, new regime, and then not only a new owner, but that's changing the manager of the team, but he's also changing technical staff as well, which you said he wants to make his stamp. So could be interesting. Could be interesting.
To steal a Bill Simmons term, because I listen to that pod all the time, it reeks of new owner syndrome. Just a new owner coming in and just wanting to, just like a bull in a china shop, really.
Yeah, just make his mark, so that then if anything goes. See, that's the thing. If it goes correctly, the new owner gets all of the praise. But if it goes downhill quick, then the excuse is, "Oh, I just came in. This is my first football club. Give me time. Give me a year, 2 years, 3 years to adjust and all this stuff." So it's high risk, and because of that, but actually it's not high risk. It's very low risk, because you have that excuse, but it's extremely high reward. But it's going to be interesting under this is Chelsea's it's not their first English manager, but Frank came in under different circumstances, but it's their first proper English manager since I don't know how long.
You'd have to go back.
Yeah, and it's a different style of manager. They'd always get managers that have a Champions League under their belt, or multiple league titles under their belt, the high profile managers. So they're going in a different direction as well. So it's going to be
the first process. One of these since Andre Villas-Boas, really, isn't it? The unproven younger upstart coming through.
Yeah, What
but that one didn't work out.
and Avram Grant was only like he was only an interim manager, wasn't he, or something like that?
Yeah, it might have been like sort of what they did with Hiddink a few times
Yeah,
as
because I
well.
think
Like it was a long interim. It was like nearly
yeah, because
like
didn't
2/3 of the season or
didn't
something.
Mourinho get fired and then Avram Grant replaced him?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's
And
how it
that
worked.
was the year that they made the final as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, the John Terry slip.
yeah, the slippage. Oh, and then Di Matteo as well. He was an interim. He came in after a
Yeah,
firing.
I wish they had some balls and just didn't give him the job, but it was almost impossible after he won the Champions League.
Yeah,
But
and their
anyone
first
with half a
Champions
brain
League.
could see, yeah, anyone with half a brain could see that he wasn't the right man for the job, and that was very fluky the way they won that Champions League.
Yeah, they beat Bayern in the final, didn't they? At Bayern.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But moving on, where do you want to take us?
I know where you want to take us, so just take us there. Go on, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, but see, it would be more interesting if you give your thoughts.
It won't be because I've already given my thoughts, but I think it's just the next level of where my thoughts were because I was going into this thinking, you know what, maybe we're just a Champions League team this year, and maybe we'll rise for those Champions League games, and that will be our main focus. And look, I already resigned myself to the fact that we're a top four contender. We're not a title contender this season by any stretch of the imagination. But then to go to what should be the hardest game of the group stage, although the other two away tests are pretty damn hard in themselves in going to the Amsterdam Arena and Ibrox. But for me, this has got to be the hard, especially the way Napoli are playing. Um, the energy they're playing with, the attacking threats they have in that team are really fun to watch. Varat Donna, as they're calling him. I like that one. But what an excitement package he is. He's so much fun. I think on maybe the Tifo football podcast they described him as you could sort of tell that he's not a player who came out of an academy. He looks like that type of player, but he is. I think that's a good way to describe it. He's super unpredictable. Even looking at the guy, he's sort of scruffy looking, and he doesn't look like he's caught up in all the what goes with being a footballer. He sort of just looks like he just goes out there and plays football. He's super fun to watch. Osimhen didn't even last a half, and he killed us in
Yeah,
what he did
destroyed you.
in the early stages. Zielinski, I've always liked. Di Lorenzo, I think, is a really solid sort of right back slash third centre back. Um, Maybe I really like Kim as the centre back as well for Napoli. I think he's been fantastic. I worry a little bit about Rachmani next to him. I think they could upgrade there if they really want to try and win things. Lobotka's really impressed me as the holding midfielder. Very tech. There's sort of Italian teams are looking to use a lot more technical sort of holding midfielders now. And you look at like a Benacer at AC Milan, who I don't think had a very good game against Salzburg at all. And they sort of missed Frank Kessie in there, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, Napoli definitely they're in a great moment. They beat Lazio at the Olimpico, and now they've absolutely slaughtered Liverpool in a way where that could have been 6 or 7. It could have been the Aston Villa game from a few seasons ago all over again. And let's not forget, we always attribute that season to Virgil van Dijk did his cruciate ligament and was out for the. Well, he was there for that Aston Villa 7-2 game. So Liverpool have shown that they can do this if they're not. You know, we had to go through the pandemic and we had to play really at a top level to get that 99 points that season. And I think then we had a drop off the next season, and I guess we could be seeing it again. But you know, I've already touched on the inflexibility of the manager, especially when we don't have the personnel or we don't have the required intensity to play the way that he wants us to play. We've got to look at playing other ways, but it's never going to happen. And who am I to argue that because of what Klopp's done for the club and what he's achieved? But still doesn't mean I have to agree with what he's doing, and I definitely don't agree with what he's doing. And you know, I talked about the motor being broken. I think it's somewhat undeniable. I mean, I was talking to our friend today actually, and he said, "Look, it's Liverpool still have the potential for things to come together, and I totally agree with that. If players come back, if we get the right players back in the right positions, i.e., Joel Matip has to come back in for Joe Gomez. Joe Gomez has been an absolute disaster. Definitely
Yeah.
not the player he was 3 seasons ago. Virgil van Dijk needs to get back on his game, and the midfield needs to come back. We need Thiago back in there, and we need Henderson back in there. But Henderson's not the same player for me either. So yeah, just the next level of worry now that we couldn't get ourselves up for a Champions League game, a pivotal Champions League game. And I fully expect this group to be very hard to get out of. And like I said last pod, I am not going to be surprised if Liverpool do not get out of this group because what I've seen, I don't like.
Yeah, I got to say that was like full credit to Napoli. Like they looked amazing. Like they came.
They outworked us.
Yeah.
And that's what we build ourselves on, our work rate. But Napoli absolutely killed us to a man. They
Yeah,
outworked us.
you guys just looked like you didn't step off the plane. Like it
And
was,
how many times have we said that this
and it
season?
was, and it was like it was a very like lethargic performance as well. Like you had players walking, and like that. I think it was the second goal, where it was that simple 1-2, out on your right hand side. Like when I saw that happen, I was like, what the hell is that? Like it was like the most simplest 1-2 ever. It wasn't anything like creative where it's a third man release or anything like that. And like no one tracked his run. And then after he went through, no one even no one tried to run to recover. Like I think like Fabinho was walking, Gomez was walking, Trent was walking. No one was going back to try and recover and put pressure on him. Yeah, like it was actually just amazing in a bad sense to watch, like from and it just doesn't look like
The
Liverpool at the moment.
the biggest indictment that I can put on our season so far is that I wasn't amazed. I really wasn't amazed. I'm just like this is who we are. Like I was hoping that we were going to get ourselves up for a Champions League game, the toughest one of the group. But I wasn't surprised that we didn't. And this season just looks more and more like it's not going to be a good one for Liverpool and Liverpool supporters. So anyone who was waiting for me to come down after last season, you might just have it this season.
Yeah, I don't know. I really thought that you know how I said last week it's the ketchup bottle. I really thought, okay, mate, like especially for Champions League, you know, like I really thought they'd get up for it. But you remember when we used to play, and like we'd play like the midday fixture, like 12 o'clock, and like because you'd like wake up at like 9 or 10 o'clock, or even like you just your body just feels like numb, or like it's still like it's trying to get its energy levels still back into like, or like the blood flowing back into the muscles. It looked like that for Liverpool. Like it just looked like it almost looked like they had a 12 p.m. kickoff. Like they just, like I said, they just looked lethargic, not interested, and just lacking energy, desire, belief. Which is really surprising for a Liverpool team, to be honest. Like, but that also adds to the record that Klopp has at Napoli. I think he hasn't won a game there, and I think he's only been beaten. I don't think he's drawn either. Like he's only been beaten at Napoli, so he doesn't have a good record there.
Yeah. Oh no, not at all.
Does not like going to the. Is it the Maradona Stadium now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stadio de Diego Maradona.
Yeah.
But you talked about the ketchup, and I guess I talked about it with the analogy of the engine. It just looks more and more like there's no fuel left in there, and there's nothing powering it forward.
Yeah.
So you talk about the ketchup. There's no ketchup in that bottle, so we can bang and bang all we want. Nothing's coming out, and you got to point to last season being extremely grueling because our friend who I talked to today as well said it's beginning to look a lot more like how lucky did we get last season? And obviously, in this moment, as a Liverpool fan, your mind goes to darker places. Like we paid the wrong guy, obviously, and Mo Salah should give his wages for that midweek game back because he was not worth it at all. That was a terrible performance. He couldn't even control the damn ball. It was ridiculous to watch. Really, it was disgraceful. He's not alone in that, but that was disgraceful that you can't even do these simple things. So you begin to wonder that. You begin to wonder with the Klopp curse, and you what really makes you wonder is just how many chances we gave away last season. And was it all just an anomaly where we just got lucky and we didn't concede goals? Now, ultimately, that's just my mind going to dark places because when you look at it in the factual sense and you look at it probably what I think should be properly, Liverpool played every single game available to them last season, and they only lost 3 of them. That's pretty incredible. I know they didn't get the 2 main prizes, but the toll that must take on a team, especially with now, of course, a shortened break, and you think that we had that huge layoff for the pandemic, and now all these guys have been playing um, sort of football so much in more condensed time, and you think the way that Liverpool have played in the past, that they're all predicated on their work rate and their intensity. And if they don't have that, they're nothing, as they're showing this season, as they showed in 2020 and 2021. So yeah, you accumulate all those factors together, and I don't think it's surprising that we're at this point. It's just disappointing because I think there are a few things the manager could do, and there were things that what could have happened in the off season in terms of signings that could have helped avoid it, really, or at least avoid it to this level.
Do you think that there might also be a degree of staleness coming in? Because that team is essentially the same team that's been playing for the past 4 or 5 years. So your back 5 is pretty much exactly the same. Your midfield is Henderson didn't play, did he? Yeah, but you get where I'm coming from. Like the core of the team is essentially the same. It's unchanged, and I think we've mentioned it before where because Klopp plays such high demanding football, it can grow stale very quickly, and it can go wrong after a couple of years. So do you think that maybe there's a degree of that as well, where they need to start refreshing the squad? And to a degree, they have.
And that is a problem in itself.
But for instance, there's no replacement for Trent. Who comes on and replaces Trent? Milner.
Yeah, exactly. We've been through that.
Robertson has at least a replacement in Tsimikas. But there's no one really. And then your midfield is either injured or old, or both. So there's no youth in there really. You have Harvey Elliott and Carvalho, but they're still raw, and it doesn't really look that great for you guys thus far. And we've touched on the Salah point. Maybe the wrong African was re-signed.
Well, you use the word stale, and I think it's an interesting one. Maybe stale. I thought the body language from the Napoli game in terms of the players was quite bad because I thought it went from stale to almost resentment. A few players were throwing hands at each other. A few players were looking disgusted at efforts from other players. And I already touched on the possibility of Alisson and Van Dijk being bedrocks of what happened last season, and looking at Mo Salah getting paid as much as he gets paid, and maybe there's inbuilt resentment there. You look at stale is absolutely the perfect word to use in terms of the tactics of the team, because everyone knows how to play against us. There's no wrinkles, there's no nuance. There's nothing new. It's the same, and it's great when we're playing at 100%, but we're clearly not playing at 100% right now. So there's got to be safeguards, and there's got to be sort of things that we can do to control when you're not playing well. Can you go back to basics? Can you put extra men behind the ball? I mean, I don't care about watching that. It's fine. It's not as good as look. Honestly, I didn't love watching Liverpool play last year. I thought the balance was wrong. I thought we should have defended better and we should have defended moments better. So even in terms of the aesthetics of watching it, I know everyone raves about it, and rightly so because it is super exciting. But in terms of good football, good balanced football, that wasn't it for me. So stale, yeah, definitely. I've gone through that in terms of the tactical, but honestly, I think in terms of personnel, I think you could look at it the other way and go, you know what? Maybe instead of getting rid of Mane and bumping up Salah's wages, maybe we could have just got to a point where we just said, look, you guys can play all of this season. We can go for it again. We can try and win those things that we didn't win last season. We came so close. Let's just run it back. And if we lose both of you in the summer, we lose both of you in the summer because they're not the right side of 30. So now we've got Mo Salah on a long contract and he's not playing well and he's getting paid £350,000 a week. Maybe it was just a case of let's see what we've got with these two. Hopefully, worst case scenario is we're challenging for everything again because we were so good last season. And then, or worst case scenario is they fall off and they visibly fall off. And we just go, well, it's not a big deal if we let you go, really. Or maybe one outperforms the other and we really try and sign that player again. So I don't know. I know you've got to do what's financially best for the club and you've got to get a fee in for a player before they leave on a free. I don't know. Can we question that a bit more? Do we have to do that? Or can we just run it back with these world-class players and try and go for it again? And if they both leave, they both leave. And we just say, thank you very much for your service. You've been fantastic for the club. And on to your next challenge. Good luck.
Yeah, that could have been one way to go about it, or try to offload Salah to Real Madrid, because we mentioned that Real Madrid probably needed an experienced right winger. And
Not anymore.
Not anymore. But yeah, maybe that should have been the way to go about it, because like you mentioned, maybe there is some, and I've mentioned it before, like maybe offering Salah $350 a week is going to start to instill some resentment from players like Alisson and Van Dijk, and maybe to a degree Trent, because Trent was he the lead assist maker last year, or pretty much up there?
I think he got Robbo by one. It was him and Robbo 1-2.
Yeah, so there's obviously something. It could have something there, but right now Salah is looking like Özil and Aubameyang. Give him a new contract. Once the new contract's signed, wheels fall off. So
I'll argue that.
Yeah, at the moment, but who knows? That can all change. Maybe
you're right. There is the potential for it to click and come together, but
maybe the World Cup break will help Salah, because he's gonna get a month off.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
But is that going to be too little, too late? Because if you guys,
I think in terms of a title, hopefully we won't be too far behind top four though. That's where we've got to be going into that, really.
Yeah, because half the season's already gone by the time the World Cup runs around. So if you guys aren't in a good spot, I don't know. Time will tell. Like we're still relatively early in the season, but
yeah,
you guys haven't gotten off to a great start whatsoever.
No.
But moving on, what other games did you watch?
Did you watch Real Madrid go to Parkhead?
No, I didn't watch that game.
I thought it was a really good game. I thought the atmosphere they created Celtic. I think the Spanish media were bigging it up and saying how Real Madrid might not have, well, wouldn't have wanted to get Celtic in their group because of going to that place. And I feel that as a Liverpool fan going to Ibrox, it's got to be, although that's what the Champions League's all about. That's the reason you're in the competition, to go to places like that and play in those atmospheres. So on the one hand, you see it's hard, but why are you in the competition if you don't want to face those challenges, you know? But yeah, I thought it was a really good game. Celtic really took the game to Real Madrid for the first 60 minutes. But at the end of the day, we saw Real Madrid show their class. Luka Modric, that outside of that right foot, after making it 2-0, after Vinny scores the first, Vinny's gone to the next level this season. He is genuinely world class now for me. If he wasn't already by the end of last season. And his energy is scary. He gets the ball and for any basketball fans, he reminds me of like a younger Russell Westbrook. He's just with a bit more finesse. He's just all energy. He gets the ball and he wants to go at people and he wants to find little slithers of space and little gaps. And then when you can do that, but you're a good enough player and you have the finesse to link up with Karim Benzema, who's in front of you, I think that's scary. Now, obviously, Benzema went off in this game, and I did keep trying to update the news to find out what the news was, but I didn't see it last time I checked. So if that's a bad one, that's probably bad for Real Madrid, but maybe in the league they'll have to hang on because Barcelona are starting to come into their own and Robert Lewandowski's starting to come into his own. Obviously, that hat-trick in the Champions League, a fantastic hat-trick, and that's what Robert Lewandowski does. He scores a bucket load of goals against sort of subpar teams, as you should as a striker. I'm not disparaging him, but he's going to earn his money if he can score them in the important moments this season. But yeah, he's coming into his own. So if Real Madrid are missing Benzema at the same time as Lewandowski is scoring a bucket load of goals and helping Barcelona get wins, then maybe Barcelona can build up a bit of a buffer until he comes back. But that's all speculation. We got to see how long Benzema's out for, if he's out at all. But yeah, Vinny's scary good. Modric, we know. Tchouaméni, we haven't seen get tested, and that is still the question mark. But that question mark is getting more and more faded as we go along because Real Madrid just look like such a class act for me, such a class team. At the end of this, and we'll touch on the game involving PSG in a bit, but at the end of this week, it might have flipped. I might have put Real Madrid back above PSG because I look at this starting 11 and the weakness I see is maybe only left back with Furlan Mendy. Valverde's become like a properly good right midfielder / right winger. Always does his work for the team. Toni Kroos and Luka Modric, do we need to talk about? Tchouaméni is a fantastic player. I just worry about those big moments and getting the balance right in that Real Madrid team. But he has the physical qualities to do it, no doubt, and he gives you a bit more on the ball than Casemiro ever did. So maybe it's a sort of we'll trade the defensive off to have more attack, and then Vinny and Benzema we don't need to say anymore. So they went there. They went to the cauldron. It was fiery. They had to withstand a challenge. Don't get me wrong. You look at a Celtic Real Madrid game and you see 3-0 and you'd think that's what should have happened. Celtic were in this game and they played the game and they were really good for 60 minutes. But yeah, Real Madrid are just class, and if they kept Casemiro, they'd probably be my favourites to repeat.
Yeah, I think your description of saying like class is probably like the best way to put it. Yeah, you froze on me there for a sec. But yeah, like they just seem like that. They seem like that because they have so many experienced players. They just seem like that team that, like they know exactly what's expected of them, and they're gonna go out and do it. Like they have this different like aura about them. But if they start getting injuries, especially like you said to Benzema, I don't know, things could start changing a little bit because we saw
It is.
we saw last year what happened when Benzema didn't play.
Yeah,
A
the
couple
only
of games.
difference, and I was going to say, it is interesting now we get to see Slimmer, and apparently his knee's been scoped out, and all that crap that apparently was in there is out. But we get to see Eden Hazard as a sort of number 9. So no doubt he's got the ability to link up with teammates. He definitely doesn't have the goals that Benzema has in him, but he did score one against Celtic. But that's if he's a, like even 85% of what he used to be, that's still a pretty damn good player to have in reserve. So we get to see it now. If Benzema is injured, but no doubt Benzema's a huge loss because he's probably the best player in the world at the moment.
Well, Hazard needs to get the ball rolling because it's a World Cup year, and I think
Yeah,
last time I think last time Belgium played, he didn't even make the squad. So if he's at risk of losing his place in that team, and this could be potentially his last World Cup because he's already 30, isn't he? I think he's our age.
yeah, at least I think, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he
Yeah.
was born the same year that we were. So yeah, it's if he can't kick on, can't take it seriously, lose that weight and everything, then he's not going to the World Cup. I
He's
don't see it.
slimmer.
Yeah,
He's definitely slimmer coming into this season. Yeah,
yeah. I read that he likes a good burger, so maybe
who doesn't?
so he's probably just laying off them for the moment. But did you watch Bayern Inter, and also what was the other relatively big game?
PSG, Juve.
PSG Juve. Which one do you want to touch on first?
Oh, you go. I think we should hear a bit more of your voice. So you
Yeah.
take us where you want and give us your opinions on one of them.
Um, I don't know. We'll go with PSG. So like in regards to that game, Juve, it almost took them a while to get into the game. Like PSG started off really strong. I think was it like 2 goals in the opening 10 or 15 minutes, and two great
20,
goals.
22, I think, was the second
Yeah,
goal.
well, two great goals as well. And it just seemed
Yeah.
like PSG were just on, like they were just on, and it looked like they could have got more as well. But I don't know. As time went on, it just seemed like maybe they started to settle a little bit more rather than kill PSG, rather than kill Juve off, and they sort of opened the door to let Juve back in, and it didn't. Yeah, it didn't fill me with confidence. The performance, because if that's Bayern, if that's Barcelona, if that's Real Madrid, if that's any one of these bigger teams that are in form or finding form, because Juve haven't been the best this season so far, but if that's any one of these bigger teams, I don't think PSG walk away with a win there. They walk away with a draw at the very least, if not a loss. So yeah, I'm not too impressed by PSG at this point in time.
I will say I didn't like the rest on your laurels approach after they had a
Yeah,
blistering start. But if they're playing a better team, that blistering start, are they 2-0 up, and do they feel like they're clearly the better team if they're playing those teams you mentioned? I don't know. So is there even an opportunity to rest on their laurels? Probably not. But the fact that they did in this game rather than killing it, yeah, annoyed me a little bit. But that's not to overshadow how damn good they were in the first 22 minutes. Mbappe was absolutely sublime. Neymar looked every bit his partner in crime. It was interesting because Messi was the one who was sort of out of the game.
yeah, I
Really,
didn't
didn't
really
wasn't
notice
really
him.
exactly because I think it's going to have to be Mbappe and Neymar to be the main two guys if they're gonna really contend for this year's Champions League. But the reason I said before that I think maybe Real Madrid are above them in terms of who I think are going to win this competition is because I looked at the two starting 11s and I spoke about how I think Real Madrid only have one potential weakness. Like Mendy's not even a a glaring weakness. He's just a potential weakness for me. Whereas I look at Mendes at left wing back, I think he's fine, but he hasn't shown that he's exceptional at this level. So maybe he can show it, but we haven't seen it. And I look at the midfield, and I'm just like, that midfield's not a Champions League winning midfield. I think they needed some sort of imposing figure in there. I think they do have Danilo, but unconvinced by him. I said it last pod, I think, but a Frank Cassie type in there would have been fantastic for them. But at the end of the day as well, I might look at those weaknesses, but I look at the strengths, and the strengths are strong. Although I must say as well, Donnarumma doesn't inspire me. I totally rate. I know we haven't maybe seen him in a while, but Keylor Navas for me as an experienced goalkeeper, I'd probably rate above him. I think Donnarumma's a lot of hype at the moment. To be fair, I know at his young age he's won a Euros and he won the Golden Glove at that Euros, but man, when I watch him play, that huge mistake against Real Madrid to get the ball rolling last season's Champions League. And he's just not that good with his feet, so I don't know why he overplays. He comes for a cross in this game, gets nowhere near it. So I'm not completely convinced by him, although they do have, if his form gets really bad, they have a great number 2 on the bench. But you look at the strengths, the three centre backs when they're playing well. I don't know if there's many better in the world than particularly Marquinhos and Sergio Ramos. And then the front 3, if they're playing well, I don't think there's any better in the world. So it's just how hard Neymar pushes himself, how he comes back from the World Cup as well. And Mbappe, I think, is a machine, and he's just going to kick on, much in the Haaland mould.
That's what you said, though. The midfield doesn't instill me with confidence, and that midfield's going to get outclassed and overrun by a better midfield. And Real Madrid's midfield is better. Man City's midfield is better. Liverpool's isn't. But what other? I think Bayern's midfield
Bayern
as well.
Is probably, yeah, I'd say Bayern's is better, but that's one that they might have a bit more of a chance.
But it's not like overly better.
Although if they get Goretzka back, Kimmich and Goretzka, that's a pretty good midfield.
Yeah, but like I said, when they come up against one of these bigger teams with a better midfield, that front 3 isn't going to get any service, and they're not going to work hard enough to try and force mistakes or try to force the opposition backline to play quicker. They don't have it in them to do that. So They
Messi doesn't. Messi's never shown it, but Neymar has been working harder this year. It's just whether he can blend that with actually doing it in the right ways. And Mbappe definitely has it in him. Will he do it? Maybe, maybe not. But he's such a threat. Like I've said before, he's such a threat. Even if he's not, if they can just have enough players working behind the ball, then you don't want to leave him free for one moment.
Nah, look, I have no confidence in the mentality of PSG. Once they start being faced by a challenge, it's going to be the same old story again, where players just throw their hands up and they stop trying because they're getting outclassed. It's going to be I can't see the potential for them to overcome adversity. Once they're faced with adversity, they crumble. And we've seen it way too many times, and I don't see it happening any other way once they come up against a big team.
We'll see, but I'm definitely not that low on them, and I think they have the potential to put a lot of those things that we've seen in previous seasons right this season. But they do. Juve are no mugs. They haven't been great this season, but they're definitely no mugs, and Allegri's been at this stage before, so it's not like they beat, I don't know, the bottom team in Ligue 1 in this game. But yeah, they will need to face sterner challenges, and how they stand up to those challenges is, in the case of them and in the case of Bayern, what we judge them on.
I reckon they get beat in the round of 16 if they don't get a favourable opponent. Like if they get any one of these guys from the like a team that finishes second, that's like Barca could easily finish second, or even Bayern. Like they could finish second in the group and they can get one of those two teams. But if they get
Barca can. I don't think Bayern will finish in second.
I don't think they will.
And
But
Barca against PSG would be a great matchup. I reckon that might be a coin toss.
like I said, I still reckon they get knocked out in the quarters if they don't get a significantly weaker team. If they come up against, if they get a bad matchup, they're getting knocked out in the. Did I say quarters? In the round of 16. So, but I don't even see them getting past the quarters, to be honest.
We'll see. You're very low on them, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, they haven't shown me any reason to have confidence in them. Like they just seem like I think it's more the midfield that's and just the previous mentality, which I think is still there.
That remains to be seen, but I think if you watched a bit more of them, I think you'd see that it's not quite the same. Like I outlined at the start, they had a full squad to start this season. Everyone's together, everyone's working together. Neymar looks motivated. Mbappe, we never question that.
Watch the wheels
But
fall off.
well, I'm with you that the midfield is a bit worrying, but we'll see if the wheels fall because these players are world class players at the end of the day, and you don't get to be that way if you couldn't show a good mentality at any point in your career. So if they could tap into it, I mean that's the question, and that's the question you're not waiting to be answered. You're just waiting for them to fail. I'm not in that boat with you. I'm not waiting for them to fail,
I'm
but
waiting for
I
them to prove me
acknowledge that
wrong.
I acknowledge that there's a chance that they could fail, and it could be the same old story. But from what I've seen, it's more encouraging this season. They look in this thing together. There's going to be ego clashes because it's PSG, but that's just part of working with world class players.
Well, like I said, I'm waiting for them to prove me wrong. And they haven't really had any tests so far, and they're not going to be tested in the in the French league. So their only tests are going to come in the round of 16 and quarterfinals, and I don't think they're going to pass.
And okay, but why do we allow Bayern to be? We're super impressed by Bayern because honestly, I don't think there's all that much between the French league and the German league anymore. Not anymore. I think the German league has potential to be better than what it is right now. But right now, the German league is very weak. Dortmund are not a good side and they've won 4 or 5, but we saw them capitulate to Werder Bremen late on. And the football has been uninspiring. It's been Tottenham, but without Kane and Son, which is bloody terrible. Leipzig have sacked their manager after a 4-1 demolition at home to Shakhtar of Ukraine, let's remember. Who else is there? Leverkusen just lost at Bruges. I mean, honestly, we say this about PSG. Bayern are not going to get tested in the Bundesliga. I know they've drawn their last two, and I was actually reasonably impressed with Union Berlin and Jan Sommer for Mönchengladbach. But if you played that game another 9 times, Bayern would win 8 of them. So, like, that's how many chances they created. So it's somewhat unfair for me, especially because we think, wait, who capitulated to Villarreal last season in the quarterfinals? Oh, that would be Bayern Munich. So I know they're my pick for Champions League winners, but I just wanted to play devil's advocate and say, if we're not impressed with the test that PSG are coming through in France, we can't be impressed with the test that Bayern Munich are coming against in Germany either.
I just want to push back on the Villarreal one. Would you really classify that as a capitulation?
It wasn't in the way of PSG against Real Madrid, but let's not forget what Real Madrid did to Chelsea and then did to Manchester City in the semi-finals, and then they go on and win the whole thing. So was PSG's even a capitulation? I would say yes, because Donnarumma makes a terrible mistake, and Marquinhos, for as good as he is, makes a bad mistake as well. But Bayern Munich should be taking enough chances in the 2 legs against Villarreal, and in the tie against Villarreal at El Madrigal, I would not even say Bayern were really the better team. I thought it was a pretty even match, and capitulation might be a bit strong, but they should be beating Villarreal. There's no doubt
They
about
they,
that
they
in my
should be,
mind.
but
Yeah.
regardless,
So yeah, I just wanted to put another narrative
no,
out
that's
there.
that's
But
fine to because like people do generally compare, the French and German leagues to be similar because you have like a super team in each of those leagues that doesn't,
to be
yeah,
to be fair, it's not in Germany. It's for years it was a lot better than this, but just in recent seasons, I just haven't been impressed with what I've seen out of the Bundesliga.
yeah. Well, it seemed like it was a lot more competitive like 10 years ago, like because you had different teams winning it. I think like Wolfsburg won it, Werder Bremen won it.
Oh yeah, like 15 years ago. Yeah,
I think
Stuttgart won it in
Stuttgart,
that
yeah.
time. Yeah,
Dortmund obviously won, I think,
yeah.
two under Klopp. But
And
like,
then Guardiola came in and sort of made that league Bayern's, and they've carried it on. And to be fair, Guardiola's doing the same with the Premier League for me. So we want to talk about how good the Premier League is. I do think the Premier League's really good, but there's a very high chance that we come at the end of the season and we see Manchester City's name on that trophy again.
have you seen? I saw like this picture of like Pep's league positions. I think he hasn't finished lower than third, and when he finished third was I think his first season at City.
Yeah, was that third or fourth? Yeah, but yeah, that was definitely the lowest.
But
he
it's always
finished.
like first. It's like always first or second, and I think there's only like 3 or 4 second place.
Three.
Yeah,
I think it's three that he didn't. Well, three that he didn't win,
yeah.
which would be Mourinho, where they had to, I think, get to 100 points or nearly 100 points. And that was a really good Real Madrid team. Conte in that first season where he came to City, and then Klopp, obviously, with 99 points for Liverpool. So only that City season in his first season at City was not even a title challenge. But the other two times, the other team had to do something ridiculous to win it.
But the Liverpool win, that wasn't City weren't there either. Like they weren't really on their toes.
Yeah, they were second, but yeah, they didn't really
But
challenge.
they weren't even a close second.
No, they weren't, because remember what Liverpool did at the start of that season. I think they won 23 or 24
Yeah.
straight. So it's hard to keep up with that pace.
Yeah, and
Oh
then
no, they drew to Manchester United at Old Trafford in like the third or fourth game, and then they
yeah.
won every other game.
But yeah, but I think they were like 24, 25 games unbeaten. So
Yeah, until Watford did what they did.
Yeah, then there was talk about invincibilalis or whatever, however the French say it. Need to work on my French. But yeah, anyway, moving on to this is perfect transition to go to Bayern though. Like, how do you think they fared against Inter? Because I thought it was a bit of a boring game. It wasn't really exciting. Straight after that, I watched Liverpool-Napoli or Napoli-Liverpool without knowing the result. And then, like, once those goals started going in for Napoli, I'm like, holy shit, I should have watched this game instead of the Bayern game. Like, I watched the wrong game. But, yeah, it just seemed like Bayern knew that they were a step above Inter. So they didn't necessarily have to go out there and play at 100%. They could get the job done at 90%. That's what it felt like to me.
Is that not what PSG did though?
I don't know. It felt a little bit different with PSG.
I will say Inter are a better side than Juve.
Bayern seemed more controlled, whereas PSG seemed a little bit more chaotic.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because I think Bayern's personnel in those more, like, particularly even central midfield, Kimmich had a really good game. And like I said, Inter are slightly better than Juve, but at the same time, Inter are in big trouble. I don't think they're going to get out of this group. I think the balance of that team is all wrong. I think losing Perisic was massive for this team, because now they don't have the balance. Now they're looking to put in DeMarco and Darmian, and they played D'Ambrosio as one of the three centre-backs in this game. I think they need to look at moving away. And Simone Inzaghi's never done this. I'd never seen it in any of his Lazio teams. He's always favoured a 5-3-2. But I don't think the balance of that team is for a 5-3-2. I think Dumfries, as good as he is, sort of poses this problem where he's a decent defender and he's really a strong runner going forward. He's sort of in between being a proper winger or a proper fullback. He's right in between those things. Whereas you look at Perisic, he plays great as a wingback because he understands the role. But for all intents and purposes, he's a winger. That's where he's learned how to play. That's sort of how he's built, the sort of physical qualities he shows, the technical qualities he shows, I think are perfect for him to be like a traditional winger. Whereas a Dumfries is sort of more in between. So they have this difficult decision. Do we want to play Dumfries as our more defensive-minded fullback, or do we want to play the other guy? But if you play the other guy now, Skriniar's the one who has to play almost as that default right back when Dumfries goes forward. Skriniar's a really good defender, but I don't like him out in those areas. I'd rather him be as out and out centre back. Bastoni does not fill me with confidence at all. He's a little bit all over the place. He's one who would be suited to being an out and out, or not an out and out, but a default left back if, i.e., Perisic was moving up and down that line. So for me, Inter maybe should look at going away from this five at the back because the balance isn't quite right. And I think I said this last season, but I don't think Simone Inzaghi, for me, hasn't shown himself to be a great attacking coach, like in attacking movements, attacking patterns, breaking down opposition. I think he relies a lot on trying to put more attacking players in the team and just sort of let them do. But I think sometimes they look a bit clueless going forward. They look like they don't have the incision. And we saw the stark contrast in this game against Bayern because, like I say, I do think Bayern, to your point, played within themselves somewhat. But in those moments where they needed to burst, Sane was able to burst and find pockets and find spaces and finish brilliantly. And Bayern are great, and they look, for me, Bayern look a lot better when Jamal Musiala plays because I think he's the excitement machine for them. But the other guys that they can put in the team are not too shabby themselves. So, and getting Goretzka out on the pitch to play the end of that game with Kimmich, I think if you can get those two playing in midfield next to each other, if De Ligt grows to be the player that we saw at Ajax, then they have a proper centre back, so that he can limit the destruction, and maybe that's a bit strong, of Lucas Hernandez or Upamecano who play next to him because I don't fancy either of them. But maybe De Ligt can sort of...
came on for De Ligt, didn't he?
Yeah, he
And
came on
isn't
for
that when
Hernandez.
I think like straight away he made a mistake as well from memory.
Man, Upamecano in terms of mistakes, so many mistakes from that guy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He just hasn't been the player that they were hoping. But the only thing that worries me about Bayern, and it's a little bit of what worries me with PSG, they were a little bit arrogant when they went 2-0 up, and that's what Bayern have always had. But you see it with Neuer doing a circle turn against, I think, Lautaro when he was closing him down. Let's not forget, Neuer's already conceded a goal this season in that manner. So to be so lackadaisical with his feet, Neuer sometimes goal keeps with this arrogance that I think borders on too far. A little bit is good because that just means you can play. But like, I hate to break it to you, if you were a great footballer, you'd be playing on the pitch. So know your role. I know you're a World Cup winner, but let's not take those sort of stupid risks. And Kimmich sort of giving it a bit of bravado in Lautaro's face late in that game, yelling in his face. I don't know. There's a little bit of arrogance, and maybe a lot of these players have the right to do it, but I thought they might have been humbled after what happened last season. And I thought maybe Nagelsmann would have been humbled a little bit, but he looks to be going at his same sort of pace and his same sort of a little bit of bravado, a little bit of arrogance, but who knows? They might just be good enough that it just doesn't matter.
It's the Bayern Munich way. Just be full on arrogant and in your face. Was there any other games that you wanted to touch on? Because those are like I think the biggest games.
I did just want to say, well, obviously there was crazy drama in the Atletico Porto game where I think all three of those goals in Atletico's 2-1 win come in injury time, which is madness. And Griezmann comes on as a sub as he does, so that he doesn't play more than 30 minutes and scores the winner in that one. But that group looks really weak. But the one that I did want to touch on is I think it's going to be fun to have Harry Kane and Son back in the Champions League. Now, Tottenham were not very good in this game. I thought they were battered by Marseille in the first half. Marseille sort of played a man-to-man press and didn't let Tottenham get into any sort of rhythm. Tottenham were outworked for the whole first half. Marseille just really lacked the quality to make their tactics count, but they outworked them in that game. Maybe Guendouzi and Tavares had a word and let them know what they're in for and help motivate the squad for that game. But they were thoroughly unimpressive in the first half. But then they get a moment in the second half. Son gets in behind, draws the tackle, red card to Mbemba, and from there they can dominate the game. And Richarlison, your man Richarlison, didn't take his shirt off this time, I don't
No,
think.
damn, that's surprising.
No, but did score the 2 goals in the 2-0 win. But yeah, I just think Son and Kane are both actual world-class players. And I think it's going to be fun to have them in this competition again. And I think Tottenham have been dealt a pretty easy draw to get out of their group. They should get out of their group, no worries. If as down as I am on Tottenham in a footballing sense, you've got to say they've been pretty solid behind the ball, working hard, not limiting chances, and then just relying on the quality that they have up front, which they may have. Those two as a partnership are in the running. I mean, I think you can't look past De Bruyne and Haaland in terms of a partnership. That's a unbelievable partnership. And to continue the sort of basketball analogies, I sort of see Kevin De Bruyne as a Steph Curry in terms of, like I'm going to make everything tick. I'm the engine room. I'm the midfield creator. But if another player who's as good or gets more hype than me comes into the team, I'm not gonna have a sulk about it. I'm gonna work with the guy, and we're gonna be unstoppable, which is what Steph Curry obviously did with Kevin Durant in those Golden State teams. So I think it's hard to look past that partnership. Vinicius and Benzema are fantastic. I think Muller and Mane are starting to get a partnership, starting to get an understanding, and I think they might be fun to watch. But yeah, Kane and Son have been there they haven't been at this level, but they've been playing together for years now, and they'll definitely be fun to watch back on this stage.
The only problem I guess I have with Spurs is the way I can't see them winning the competition playing in this style. Like they're getting results in the league and now the Champions League more so by grinding them out rather than like actually not necessarily dominating teams, but more, I don't know, like playing it with a little bit more control or freedom. Like it seems like they're playing on the back foot more so than on the front foot, and I don't think that's gonna. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna help win them the Champions League playing in that style. And plus, Conte doesn't have a good record either. I think he has like.
I know, yeah.
He has like, doesn't he have like 11 wins and 12 losses or something like that? Like he has like a 50% record, something along those lines.
Yeah, historically he's been no good in this competition. So
yeah,
let's see if he can turn that around. But see, I'll push back a little bit on the style because I think you can win it with that style if you're a good counter-attacking team, which Tottenham are. It goes into your point a bit, but for me, it's the personnel. I don't trust an Eric Dyer at the heart of your defense. I don't even necessarily trust a Romero at this level, a Longley, a Ben Davies, even a Hugo Lloris. I know he's a World Cup winner, but for me, I don't think he even should be the French number one anymore, to be quite honest. I think Mike Mignon should have that position. But for me, it's the personnel. You can play that way. But if you were playing that way with peak Chiellini and Bonucci, I'd have a lot more confidence than Ben Davis and Eric Dyer.
Yeah, good point. Also, we'll just quickly touch on Man City. Haaland didn't get the hat trick, but he did get 2 goals. I did predict that he'll get 10 goals in the group stage, and he's already got 2 of them. So 8 more to go and 5 more games. I think it's possible. But yeah,
it's definitely nothing. It feels like nothing's impossible with this guy.
Yeah, look, when it comes to City, especially this season, it's going to be hard for us to really analyze in terms of adding anything more than what we've already said about them. And in a way, City are like I don't really bother watching them. I don't make an effort to watch them because I know what I'm going to see. I'll watch them obviously when they play sort of big games or bigger games. But like I already know the way that they're going to play. I know how the game's going to go down essentially. And there's going to be very little surprises when it comes to City. So I don't even know.
Put them in the
yeah.
Put them in the PSG and Bayern category then.
No,
we're not going to take anything away from their games, and we're just going to have to wait till they play each other.
No, because I have a lot more trust in City to keep their heads, despite the fact of what happened last season against Real Madrid.
I was going to say, yeah, like what happened at the Bernabeu in those 5 minutes.
Yeah, but the thing is,
35.
Real Madrid did the exact same thing on their way to beating Liverpool. Like they beat PSG in a similar manner. They beat Chelsea in a similar manner, and then they went and beat Man City as well. But there was a point that I wanted to mention, but I can't. It was, you know how last year, last season, I mentioned that like in that first leg, Man City, like they could have scored 7 or 8 goals against Real Madrid, like, but they just didn't have anyone on the end of the ball. Like, it seems like they found their man to actually finish those chances, and those I can't see those results happening at the moment the way that City are playing.
It's scary, and City are the team with the least weaknesses, or the least glaring weaknesses for me. But I think if I was going to pinpoint 2 potential weak spots that you could maybe get at a little bit, one would be Ruben Diaz's partner, whoever it is. They used Akanji in this game. I think Akanji sometimes in his Dortmund days showed himself to be susceptible. Or if it's John Stones, he's shown more than his fair share. Nathan Ake hasn't absolutely killed it since he's been there. Laporte, ever since his, I think, cruciate ligament injury, hasn't really been the same guy that first hit the Premier League, because he looked world-class when he first came to the Premier League. He hasn't been that guy. So there's a potential weakness. Is it glaring? Not really. They're all pretty good players in their own right. But the other one as well is if he wants to continue bringing Kyle Walker infield to supplement the midfield, I think smart teams have got to see that, and they've got to try and trap that. Because for me, if Kyle Walker's playing any portion of the game with his back to the goal or back to the play, that's a trapping opportunity right there. And as soon as he brings him infield, naturally you have to play more of the game with your back to at least some opponents. Whereas if you play as an out-and-out right back in that position, nothing's behind you. You don't have to worry about that. So is Kyle Walker a Philip Lahm type? Is he a Dani Alves type? I don't think he's in that category as a footballer. No way. He's got the best defensive weapon of all those guys. That pace that no one can really get behind him. So I'm not saying he's not even a weakness necessarily, but if he keeps wanting to use him in this way, there is potential for him to be a weakness. And for me, it's unnecessary. I don't think Kyle Walker needs to find himself in those positions. I think if you want to do that, you use João Cancelo to do that because he's a fantastic footballer. But I'm surprised no team has looked to trap that yet this season. And I think if I was going to point to any weaknesses, they're the only two that I can sort of grasp at because this City team is scary, like you say. Haaland coming in, it just allows them to play more off instinct, not even get their head up. They have an aerial threat now, and they're always in position to cross the ball, and they've got some of the best crosses and assist players in the game. So, just a really scary proposition, definitely for me. Even though they've drawn 2 games and they're not top of the league, definitely the best team I've seen in Europe this season.
I think Pep's trying to take a page out of Arteta's book by inverting both of his fullbacks instead of just one of them. Because last year, I think we only saw that Cancelo would come in infield, and now he's trying to bring Walker in. So looks like the student has become the master.
You wish.
It's the next evolution. But yeah, look, City, I think they're everyone's favourite to win the Champions League, and it would be surprising if they didn't win it, especially with Liverpool being the way they are.
Yeah. I wouldn't go as far as say surprising. It is still the Champions League. It's 2 legs. Anything can happen, as Real Madrid showed us last season. So I'm not going to go as far as surprising, but I'd be surprised if they don't make semis at least.
Nah, I'd actually be surprised if they don't win it, to be honest. Like, they just seem so far ahead of any of the other teams. But
so you don't even want to watch football this year. There's certain teams who are going to win the league, and there's certain things that are going to happen along the way in the Champions League, and City are going to win it. So what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? I've already got my crystal ball out. But no, honestly though, like, I know it's football and, like, you know, anything can happen. Like, we saw it last season. But, like, barring injuries and barring a drop off in form, I don't know. I just can't see. Like, I can see them being tested and challenged, but I can see them, you know, overcoming that adversity. And I can't, like, obviously that they're not like 100% favorites. Like I said, anything can happen, but I think they're clear. I think they are clear front runners. I think that's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, I could agree with that for sure.
Yeah, there we go. We've come to a resolution. Now, if you're done with the Champions League, should we quickly preview the Premier League before we leave our viewers or listeners?
You don't want to touch on your boy Eddie Nketiah making me eat my words and scoring the winner this morning.
Yeah, but apparently he also equaled some kind of record by, like, I think it was some record where, like, an English player has scored in every one of his starts in the Europa League or something like that. Like Harry Kane and I think one or two other players hold the record. I remember the commentator mentioning something along those lines. So there we go. Eddie Nketiah breaking records and taking names, taking Caleb's name. But look, I do want to touch on that game. Man, Zurich looked like not the team, like the atmosphere in the stadium looked amazing. Like behind especially in the first half, where you saw like I think that's where the ultras were behind that goal that Arsenal were attacking in the first half. That looked amazing. The atmosphere. So like
big game for him.
Yeah, like I was actually pretty impressed, and I was like, damn, I actually wouldn't have minded going to that game, and like being a part of that. Like it actually looked really amazing. But yeah, we weren't. Do you really want to go into Europa League games or?
Well, just one thing I did want to say is I think maybe the Europa League will be a good thing for Arsenal this season because I was pretty happy to see, and I didn't watch this game like intently, but I
Mm.
did have it on. I was pretty impressed to see Arteta sort of use this as a way to use different formations as they played the 3-4-3, and it looks like he's sort of arming his players with different solutions
Mm.
and understanding that the group stage of the Europa League is a perfect opportunity to obviously use different players. Marquinhos getting on the score sheet, Fabio Vieira starting, using Tierney sort of in the way he uses Zinchenko,
Yeah,
but I thought that one was an interesting one. And obviously, Tomiyasu was, I think, maybe was he the third centre back or he
he
was the
was a
right
right
wing back,
back.
but he
He
was
was a
very,
right back.
yeah, he was very inverted as well. So, yeah, I just think it could be a good opportunity for, and I'm impressed with the way Arteta's sort of using it to tinker a little bit and look at different things because it is a great opportunity to do that. And also, it's obviously a great, as you say, they're your favourites to win it. It's a great opportunity to get some
Mm.
silverware as well. So, and Arsenal have been really good this season, probably. Not probably, definitely the second most impressive team in England, and they're top of the league. And I know they lost recently to United, but we went through that, and I don't think there's anything really to worry in
Yeah,
that
and
performance and loss.
in this game they looked. I wouldn't. I wouldn't necessarily see. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a domination because, like for me, domination means that you're creating chance after chance after chance, similar to City against Real Madrid in the first leg last season, like where they should have scored 7 or 8 goals. This in this game they had control of possession, but they weren't. Maybe because also Jesus wasn't leading the line. Because I think in the final 10, 15 minutes, that's when they started to open Zurich up a little bit more. But also because Zurich, they were chasing the game, so they opened themselves up a little bit. But yeah, it was. I think it was controlled. It was a controlled game, but it wasn't a dominating game. Also, I want to touch on it. The penalty that in
Not a
that,
penalty.
huh?
Not a penalty.
Yeah,
Not a
look,
penalty.
that's
It's a ridiculous decision. I
yeah,
hate it.
look, that's the same with me. Like, I can understand it from both the attackers and the defenders' perspective, but it's like, come on, like a player is mid swing of the ball.
Yeah. And he just jumps in the way.
Yeah, and
No,
it's
it's
like, come on,
ridiculous.
man. Like
Nah,
they need to change that. Like whether yeah, it's not right.
it's not right. It's the wrong decision, and even the Osimhen penalty for Napoli, I thought probably wasn't a penalty for me. I
Is that
know
the
Van
second
Dijk
one?
stands on his foot.
That one.
Yeah, the second one that got saved. I know Van Dijk stands on his foot,
Ah,
but Van Dijk is in a straight line going for
mm,
the ball. Osimhen puts his foot across and knocks it to
yeah.
somewhere where he's clearly not going to get the ball and then goes down. I know he gets his foot stood on.
Mm,
So I know why they have the excuse to give the penalty. But for me, the fact that he's not getting to that ball and the fact that the ball's going nowhere and he puts his foot in there just means for me it's not a penalty. So
I don't know. With
there are
that,
two decisions.
that one's
I
more of a
agree.
penalty than
No,
the
I agree. I agree. It's more. There's more reason to give that than the Arsenal penalty.
yeah.
The
Because
Arsenal one's just
yeah,
ridiculous. I
because
don't
yeah,
like it.
that one's a ridiculous. And I think I saw it in the Premier League. I think it happened like 2 or 3 times. I think one time it was with City as well, where the defender was trying to clear the ball,
Yeah,
and the attacker, no, yeah, I think yeah, and then the attacker puts his foot. Yeah, it was that, and then the attacker puts his foot like to sort of nick it, just get a toe to it, and then he obviously gets his foot kicked. And it's like,
yeah, I hate them.
yeah, it's like you're mid swing. Like, there's no way you can stop that, especially if a player is coming from behind you, like like you don't even know that he's
Yeah.
coming.
For me, for a foul to occur, the player getting fouled must have control of the ball.
Yeah,
If they come in and just tow it to wherever the hell, they don't have control of the ball anyway. So what are we looking at? If they just kick it into the first row of the stands, I mean, it's just not a foul. They never had control of the ball.
yeah. And what
So,
did you see the penalty in the United game as well?
and that was the other one I was going to touch on. I thought Martinez was ridiculously harshly treated. It hit his body,
Yeah,
then hit his head. It
yeah,
never should have been a
I
penalty.
think it hit his thigh, and then it went into and then deflected into his forearm. I think But
Yeah, for VAR to not look to
I
overturn that,
can
I think is
sort of
ridiculous.
see why it was given because I think even after it deflected, I think the ball was still heading towards the goal. Um,
Yes,
so
I thought it was he deflected it enough for it to be going over, but the fact that it hits his body first, I don't know. I
yeah,
don't feel like it should be given.
that's the only thing. Like if it hit his body first, it didn't hit his hand first, and like yeah, for me that wasn't a penalty. So there you go, United fans. I'm on your side for once.
there's
Like
there's our referee corner for the week
yeah,
because we were very referee focused last pod.
yeah. I think we spent like what 20 minutes or half an hour on it.
Yeah,
So I'll actually put that in the timeline or so I'll put like referees corner. Actually, and let me just take a note of that. So yeah, but yeah, moving on though, I think we've touched on the two Europa League games at least that interest us, or the referee decisions. But yeah, like Premier League, I think there's a big game
mm,
happening
yep.
tomorrow. Tottenham v Man City. So yeah, big implications for that top four. Not really big because it's still early. Like if this was maybe in March or April next season, then it would be big
Not
implications. But
it's, it's not top four for me. It's at this stage it's title from what we've seen. I mean,
yeah,
Tottenham haven't been great,
I was gonna
but
say title, but
they're
because it's so early, like
well. Where is the challenge coming from for City? There's only two places I see it coming from this season,
what Tottenham and
and they're both
Arsenal.
London. Yeah, Tottenham and Arsenal. They're the only two teams I
Mm.
see at this stage who can actually mount a challenge. So I know it's too early to say this is a title fixture because we're not even 10 games, we're not even a quarter through. But at this stage, that's what I guess, what on evidence, what it kind of has to be.
Yeah, but the only reason why I'm not fully convinced by Tottenham to be title challengers is just because of the way they're playing. Like we touched on it in regards, like when we talked about earlier in the Champions League. Like they're just grinding out results by not playing well, and by not so that I can't see them necessarily winning the title. I can see them being up there, obviously, but yeah, I don't have that confidence. I think I have more confidence in teams that actually play well and that are playing more on the front foot because more times out of 10 they're gonna win games rather than the way that Tottenham are playing. Like they got lucky against Chelsea, and then the other games that they've played, like they just they don't seem like a team like a team that's going to be challenging for the title should be dominating the games against like mid-table and lower table opposition, which they're not necessarily doing at the moment, which is why I'm not instilled with confidence.
Yeah, I can see that. Again, it goes back to the point. I'm not instilled with confidence just because of the personnel. If we were looking at great defenders doing this, playing this way, then I'd be like, all right, you're playing to your strengths. This is the first game where we get to see somewhat what exactly which level Haaland's at. Because
Yeah,
remember, City did not win this game, this fixture last season against Tottenham, either home or
either,
away.
yeah.
Lost both, in fact.
Hmm.
So these are the games where hey, we brought in a striker. He gives us a different dimension against this kind of team. The team that are happy to sit back, the team that are gonna not only sit back, but they're gonna do it. They should do it extraordinarily well because they have a manager who's unbelievably well equipped in playing this way. But now City have the dimension of Haaland. So it'll be interesting to see once we get through this fixture how it compares and contrasts to the fixtures that we saw between these two teams last season.
Yeah, and Tottenham they seem to be that bogey team for City. Like every season they
I
seem
think
to
it's
get at
the
least one result against them.
and it's the way they've played in recent times because Mourinho was not adverse to doing this, and now they've got Conte in charge who is very well versed in doing this. So it plays into their strengths really, but does it anymore because they have Erling Haaland now? That's
Yeah,
the question.
I can't wait for that. I just love watching Haaland play. Like I don't know, there's just something about like these like beastly sort of players that look like they're playing with their food, and just like
Yeah,
they look like they're dominating, or like should be dominating because they're like, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how he goes. I guess in his first, would you say first true test?
yeah, I would say so in the league anyway.
Yeah, because like I don't know that the first game like what of the season, the Community Shield, like I don't know, it's the Community Shield.
It is what it is. It's the
Yeah,
Community Shield.
yeah, exactly. So it's gonna be a good game. I can't wait to watch it. What other fixtures are there? Like I need to pop that one open. But is there any other ones that sort of catch your eye?
Well, Liverpool are going to Wolves, and Wolves are a good side, so I
No,
think
Liverpool at
they'll.
home. Wolves are going to
Oh
Liverpool.
well, okay, Wolves are going to Liverpool, so
Yeah,
either way, Wolves are a good side, so
and
that'll be an
they have
interesting
Diego
one.
Costa now, don't they?
Yeah, we'll see what Diego Costa they have.
Wait,
which which
was he
one?
playing in China or Brazil? Um,
I have no idea, man. I thought he retired.
yeah, I thought he looks like a player that should be retired.
Yeah,
In terms of not in terms of the way he plays, but in terms of how he looks. Like
yeah. So yeah, he's looked 40 for years, hasn't
yeah.
he?
um, I guess the other interesting one is maybe Arsenal Everton, and I think Crystal
Yeah,
Palace United should be interesting as well.
yeah. They're both pretty interesting, especially because Palace's style of play might ask some different questions of United that we haven't necessarily seen being
Mm,
asked yet. Although Palace are the home team, so that might incline them to come out just a little bit more.
maybe.
Um, and I actually think the West London derby between Fulham and Chelsea will be really interesting with Graham Potter's first game in charge as well. But how much influence could he have? I don't know. He's the type of manager who might have a big impact just by the way he sets up the team as soon as he goes there. So, yeah, there's definitely some interesting fixtures, but none more so than that City Tottenham game, which I think is the standout fixture for all of Europe over the weekend. We sort of get to breathe a little bit after what we saw in the Champions League. And one thing I just wanted to add as well is the quality difference you can see straight away from league football to Champions League. I thought was pretty stark, especially in those bigger Champions League games. The PSG Juve game, I thought Juve brought a different level to what they've been playing at, even though it still wasn't on PSG's level. But they were playing much better, much more compact, much more tactical than they had been playing in the league at all. Um, it sort of feels like just a step above, and that's exactly what it is. Really, it's the Champions League. This is the pinnacle of club football. So I thought that was pretty stark to see the difference and just the entertainment level as well. I know you were raving about Haaland, but and no doubt rightly so you were, but it was still Mbappe who was the player who got the two gasps out of me this weekend for those two PSG goals. I was just like, they were great goals. That was sort of like those laughs where you're just like, that was just too good. What do you do about that? So, and that rivalry is going to be something special to watch in the coming years because those guys are machines, and we've already touched on all those other great young players that are coming through. We have the potential for a real golden generation here.
With just quickly like on, and then we'll finish up with Premier League I guess predictions. But like on that Mbappe Haaland rivalry, you know how Ronaldo moved to La Liga, and then obviously, and then you did get like always in the headlines, Ronaldo v Messi. Um, what Premier League team could could get Mbappe, and then secondly, would Mbappe even move to, and then thirdly,
No,
would suit
yeah.
Mbappe?
It was interesting because I think we said it when Haaland came. The Premier League doesn't normally get the best, the pinnacle players in the world.
Mm.
And Mbappe doesn't strike me as the type of player who's going to move to the Premier League. I would love to see him go against Haaland. Which team would it be? I actually don't think there is a team as it currently stands who could get him. The only team that could get him for me is Real Madrid, and we had the flirt over the summer with it. Thankfully, he stayed at PSG because for football, that's so much better because we get to see Benzema lead the line at Real Madrid and we get to see Mbappe lead the line at PSG. They don't have to duel each other at the same club, and then if everything clicks, they just romp to the Champions League. Even though City are excellent as well, but I think it's way better if you have main guys be the main guy at their club and go against each other. And especially, like I touched on, the optics of him going to Real Madrid after Real Madrid were the team to knock him out. That wouldn't have resonated well with me. So I'm so happy he stayed at PSG. Get a few more years in, and then I don't think it's going to be the Premier League. I think it's going to be Real Madrid.
Yeah, so like in regards to the answers to the questions I had, which team could get him? Newcastle's the obvious standout because, like, in terms of wages, they can afford the wages, they can afford the transfer. But would he really go to live?
Not yet.
No way. But would he really go live in Newcastle? No.
That too.
He wouldn't. Yeah. No. Man United under Fergie, I think he would have been. I think Fergie would have been able to attract Mbappe to Man United.
Maybe.
I reckon he could have.
For me, that still goes into the point about the Premier League never getting these top guys.
But the current incarnation of United, it's very hard for them to attract the top players.
Well, but think about it. Even back then, under Fergie, they still couldn't keep Ronaldo when Real Madrid came calling. Yeah, that's Manchester United. These players from the continent, for me, they don't see the hype of the Premier League. They haven't grown up with the hype of the Premier League. I think maybe that's going to change because the Premier League has clearly become the biggest league now. When you just put it financially, for example, which the incredible stat I think I heard was the Premier League's net spend was like over $1 billion.
It was $2 billion,
euros
wasn't it?
Or pounds.
Or was the whole transfer?
The net spend in terms of like after and the net spend of two of the other top 5 leagues were in the positive in terms of they made profit from the sales of their players, and I think La Liga their net spend was £55 million, and Serie A was like £4 million. So that is the level that the Premier League is blowing all of these leagues out of the water at the moment financially, and they're somewhat bankrolling all the other leagues in terms of the money they spend. Yeah,
in a way, then you could say that I guess it's they're making the other leagues a little bit more competitive by sending money to them. So
yeah, it's good, and they're overpaying for a lot of these players as well. The Premier League tax.
But just to finish on my point with Mbappe though, like just to go through the teams. He could go to City, but it would be another cheat code. But I also don't think Mbappe suits Pep's style. And plus Haaland's already there, so you don't really want to see Mbappe and Haaland in the same team.
Yeah, exactly.
Chelsea could get him, and I think they have the
resource. They need to get their act together.
They have the resource to get him as well. I'm not going to throw Arsenal in there as an actual potential. Like that's not going to happen now. But I thought it was a signing that they should have gone for back when he was at Monaco. Because like when I saw him in Monaco, I was like, "Oh, this guy's giving me Thierry Henry vibes." Like he really reminded me of the way Thierry Henry used to run with the ball, and also like the technical ability as well. Really reminded me of Thierry. And
they didn't have the money
back when he was 18.
Let's not forget what PSG signed him for. They signed him for like 130 million euros.
They got him on loan first.
Yeah, first, and because they couldn't pay that and the Neymar transfer all in the same window.
I'm not privy to obviously how much he was worth back then and everything. But like I said, back then I was like, damn, like that's one that they should go for.
That's pie in the sky.
But no, but also
he was a killer at 17.
No,
Remember
but
what he was doing for that Monaco team in the Champions League?
But also, I want to add that a lot of these French players, especially the more attacking players, they have a resonation towards Arsenal because of Thierry.
Yeah.
So that could have been a potential one, just because a lot of French, especially these younger players of Mbappe's generation, they grew up watching Thierry at Arsenal. Now, though, as the next generation is coming through, that love of Arsenal isn't going to necessarily be there. So that's one that they should have gone for, 5-6 years ago. But it's obviously not gonna happen now or ever that he goes to Arsenal. But I think out of all those clubs, the most realistic one is Chelsea, just because it's London, and Chelsea have the resources to get him. But in having said that, do they really have the resources to get him when he's earning $1 million a week? So I think
whatever club he goes to next, he'll probably have to take a little bit of a wage cut.
He'll have to take a haircut, for sure.
But who cares? Because it will still be astronomical amounts of money, and he'll be looking for more than that by then, I think.
Yeah, I reckon he goes to Real Madrid though next. That's pretty much written, as Matthias would say, it's written in the stars.
Yeah.
But yeah, enough.
So
enough about Mbappe. Premier League predictions.
Let's write some predictions in the stars.
Let's get the crystal ball out. Chelsea Fulham, since you mentioned that should be an interesting London derby. Fulham at home. Oh, but before you give it, I really like Fulham Stadium. How it's right on the river? Oh
yeah, with the new stand, they've got all these amenities like a pool and a restaurant and stuff right on the riverbank.
Yeah, I really like it.
I went to the old Craven Cottage, and that was pretty nice with the location and whatnot. But now that new stand, I think, is really nice, and they got a nice setup there.
Yeah, so
I'll go for a 1-1.
1-1.
Yeah. Fulham have been pretty good this season.
You would expect a bounce from Chelsea, but the fact that they've got a new manager in, he's only going to have one training session with them today.
Yeah.
I reckon Chelsea could be there for the taking.
Ooh.
I reckon a 1-0 Fulham. I reckon Chelsea just don't. They're struggling to score goals, and they're creating chances, but they're struggling to put the ball in the back of the net. So I reckon it could be a 1-0 for Fulham, and Fulham have been playing pretty well, and they've impressed me as a new team that's come up. They've impressed me. Liverpool Wolves.
I decline to answer pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights. I'm not going to be the reason we lose this game. You can give a prediction on that one.
I reckon it depends on what Diego Costa we get, because Wolves are similar in the sense that, but they've been playing a little bit more eye-catching football than Chelsea, but they haven't had anyone to put the ball in the back of the net. So if this was Diego Costa from back in his Chelsea days, I'm like, oh, he could probably get a goal or two in this game. It's still so hard to go against Liverpool, and I think because they had that chaotic game midweek, Klopp might be up their asses to get a result. So I'm gonna go 2-1 Liverpool.
I hope so.
Just keep you happy as well.
I'll only be happy if they do it.
City Tottenham.
Ooh. Oh, this one's the big one. We finish on this one, yeah?
No. We'll finish on this one. Okay, so right. Arsenal Everton. Arsenal playing at home.
2-1 Arsenal.
I'm not sure where the goal comes from with Everton.
Yeah, the goal comes from Thomas Partey not being there. That's the Only reason.
Yeah, I
Give
do
him a
I do
goal.
really like Anthony Gordon. He looks exciting, but
The £70 million man.
yeah, um, I reckon it's gonna be I reckon 3-0 Arsenal.
Confident.
Yeah, because like most of the players
That's
had
bad karma. That's bad karma.
most of the players had a rest in the middle of the week, um, and they need to bounce back after that United result. Like they played well against United, but they need to bounce back. So I reckon they're going to be really motivated to get a result here. And we'll do two more. West Ham Newcastle should be interesting, I reckon, just because I like what's happening in Newcastle at the moment. So I like to throw them in the
Yeah, it
mix.
is good.
Yeah.
I think they need a win. Newcastle need a win because otherwise, this sort of their start to the season disapparates pretty quickly. They should have got a win against Palace because of that stupid VAR decision last week, but I think they need to get a win again because I think it's been a while since they got one. So I'm hoping Newcastle win, and I guess I'll go for a 1-0 Newcastle win in that.
Yeah. If Saint Maximin is back, I'm gonna go 2-0. Otherwise, if he's not playing, 1-0. And Guimaraes as well. If he's back, then so those two need to be back, and I expect Newcastle to win. Otherwise, if neither of them are playing, I can see West Ham getting a result here. And Crystal Palace United.
With a 1-1 in that game.
I reckon a 1-0 for Crystal Palace. I reckon they get a goal on the break and they just hold on. Potentially a 2-0 because United will probably open up. But I just don't think that there's going to be many spaces behind Crystal Palace for United to do damage in like they have against Liverpool and Arsenal. So this is going to be an interesting test to see whether United can play in a different style and get a result. Otherwise, I think it's going to go more or less the same that like the Leicester game and the Southampton game went, where the opposing team doesn't really give them that space behind, even though they got results against those two. But Palace just seem a lot more solid than those two teams. And we'll finish with yeah.
They just play a different way as well, Palace. They'll sit back more than those two teams. I think.
And they have
Leicester and South and
they have more tools.
Leicester and Southampton were at home.
Yeah, and they have more tools to actually damage them. I think they have a bit more of a threat.
More than Southampton for sure. Leicester have the tools, but we know about Leicester's
they haven't been playing
problems
well.
This season,
yeah. So we'll finish on Man City, Tottenham. How do you think that one will go? Playing at Man City.
I'm gonna go with a 2-2.
Well, apparently the win probability is Man City 70%, and then 17% draw, and then 13% Tottenham win.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's low.
I reckon Haaland gets 2 goals here, and it's a 2-0 victory.
Well, I see Haaland getting 2 goals. The only difference is I see Kane and Son and Kulusevski being a threat on the break, and I can see Tottenham getting 2 as well.
I think Pep would have learnt his lesson from last season. You'd hope that he learnt his lesson.
There's only so much you can learn with players like that. Kane and Son and Kulusevski's a new guy in the mix. So
yeah, but
there's only so much you can do against world-class players. So if they're on, then I give Tottenham a chance to get a point out of this game.
I see this pretty much going the same way that the Chelsea-Tottenham game went, but I think Tottenham have been riding their luck a little bit too much lately, and I think their luck is going to run out against City.
We shall see.
Yeah, we shall hope.
I don't know. I'd like a draw.
Just because it allows Liverpool to catch up a little bit if they draw.
Well, we need to catch up. I don't know. These teams seem out of our league at the moment, which is ridiculous to say.
How's the table shaping up at the moment? Like, if it was to be a draw, and you guys win, so City and Tottenham will both go up to 15 points. And if you guys win, where are you guys? Just in the middle. 7th. So you guys will go up to 12 points, and they'll be on 15. So you'll only be 3 points behind them if you win and they both draw. So a draw would actually suit you guys. So it puts you right back there in the mix. Like you guys aren't out of it at all.
Yeah, it's an early season. We're just going off performances. I haven't even paid attention really to the table yet.
Yeah.
Another couple of weeks and I'll be there.
Yeah, I think like mid start of November, mid-November, that's when we'll paint a clearer picture. But that World Cup, it's throwing a spanner in the works.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that more in the future.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one.
Yeah, that's gonna be good.
Once this finalized squads have been released, then we'll get into that.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So, anything else to add?
I'm good, man.
All right. It's been a pleasure catching up. I know I woke up a little bit late and kept you waiting a little bit. But
we're gonna do under 2 hours. Look at that.
You know what? Oh,
here we go. We're not gonna do under 2 hours.
Nah, we will. Because we're only at hour 50. But like I came home around 2:00. Because I went to Zagreb to catch up with a friend, and the latest bus was at like 1:00. So like there's a bus at 9:00, and then the next one is at 1:00, right? So 9:00's too early because he finishes work at like 6. So anyway, got home at 2, and then I'm like, okay, I don't know the Arsenal result. I want to watch it, so I decide to watch it. And by the time like I shower and come home and shower, like the game finishes at like 4 a.m. So I'm like, yeah. So just let you know that I need at least 6 hours of sleep, otherwise I'm gonna look and feel like total shit. So, and like if anyone's listening, they probably noticed that I'm a little bit lower key today. So
no, you've done fine.
Oh, thank you. You're too generous. All right. But yeah, Caleb, it's that was story time with Nev. It's been a pleasure, and for all those people listening or watching us, thanks for coming, and bye for now.